Okay, so we've been talking about why we use the guess method to solve equations. So let's talk about what guess means. So the G stands for given. The U stands for unknown. The E stands for equation. The first S stands for substitute. And the last S stands for solve. So when we talk about given, this is what they give us in the equation. So this is information from the problem. The unknown is going to be our answer. And you're going to look for words like what is to figure out what the unknown is. The equation is something that we're going to use to solve it. So for instance, if we're doing speed or velocity, that is velocity equals distance over time. So that is our equation. And then to substitute it in, you would take, let's say, velocity, and it's 2 meters is our distance, and our time would be 4 seconds. So you're taking in your given and you're putting it into the problem. And that's when you're going to solve it with a calculator, and you get like 1/2 or 0.5 meters per second. So that is what guess method is. Okay, so let's put this into a problem. So look at the equations that we have on our worksheet from today that were from the worksheet called Determining Speed, and that's also called Velocity. Alright, so what we have is the question says, this is number 1, what is the velocity of a car that traveled a total of 75 kilometers north in 1.5 hours? So what are our givens? What information are they giving us? They're giving us 75 kilometers and they're also giving us 1.5 hours. Now, what is it that we're measuring if we say kilometers? We're measuring distance. And what is it that we're measuring when we say hours? Well, that's time. So if we look at our unknown, they're asking what is the velocity, right? So what is the velocity? This is our unknown. So the next thing that we need to do is write the equation. So our equation, as it says on the worksheet, it says that speed or velocity equals distance divided by time. So now the second S is substitute. So all we're going to do is we're going to take distance, which is 75 kilometers, and we're going to bring it down here, 75 kilometers. Make sure you're using your units. And then we're going to bring 1.5 hours, which is time. Make sure you're using your units. And now we're going to solve. So our velocity is going to be 75 divided by 1.5, which is 50 kilometers per hour. Now, this is the correct answer. You must have the units to have it be correct. All right, let's look at number 2. It says, what is the velocity? So it's asking us, what is the velocity? Question mark. What is the velocity of a plane that traveled 3,000 miles, 3,000 miles from New York to California in 5.0 hours? 5.0 hours. Okay, so what is miles? What is it that we're measuring when we say miles? We're measuring distance. And what is it that we're measuring when we say hours? Well, that's time. So here are my givens. Here is my unknown, or desconocido. And so now what we need to do is we need to have our equation. So our equation is still velocity equals distance divided by time. And now we're going to substitute. So my distance is 3,000 miles divided by my time is 5 hours divide that. That means that the plane traveled 600 miles per hour. All right, so let's look at number 3. Number 3 says, John took 45 minutes to bicycle to his grandmother's house. So how long did he take? 45 minutes. And that measures time. A total of 4 kilometers. So it was 4 kilometers, and that measures distance. What was his velocity? Again, it says what. What was his velocity? So V equals, that's our unknown, desconocido. So now I'm going to find my equation. Again, it's still the same. V equals distance divided by time. Distance divided by time equals velocity. So now what I'm going to do is substitute. So my distance is 4 kilometers divided by time is 45 minutes. But there's a problem. It tells us to give the velocity in kilometers per hour. What? So we've got to do something. This is going to give us minutes. We need hours. So let's back up. Somehow I can't erase. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. So let's look at it again. Number 3. Again, my distance is 4 kilometers. My time was 45 minutes. And they're asking us to find the velocity in kilometers per hour. And we have minutes. Oh, it's a problem. But it's not. Do you remember when we did these problems? So we have 45 minutes. And what goes underneath this? Just a 1 because it's still 45 minutes. And we want to go to hours. So can I go directly from minutes to hours? Yes, of course I can. So I write hours. Well, but I need to get minutes to cancel, so what do I need to put down here? I need to put minutes. Because if I have minutes here and minutes here, they cancel. So the only ones that I'm left with are hours, and that's exactly what I need. So now, which one is bigger, an hour or a minute? An hour. And so I'm going to write a 1. And how many minutes are in 1 hour? 60. So, what is 45 divided by 60? It's 0.75 Don't forget, hours. All right, so now that we have that, now we can plug it into our real equation for what we're really trying to find. Remember, we're still trying to find velocity, but we need it in velocity kilometers per hour. So we know that velocity equals distance over time, and my new time is right here, 0.75 hours, and my distance is still 4 kilometers divided by 0.75 hours. So I get 5.3 kilometers per hour. It's not too bad. He was riding his bike. That's going pretty good. So now we're going to go on to number 4. Number 4 says it took 3.5 hours for a train to travel the distance between two cities at a velocity of 120 miles per hour. How many miles lie between the two cities? So, what do we know? 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. Well, 3.5 hours measures, that's time. And it says that it has a velocity. It's giving us velocity. And that was 120 miles per hour. And the question is, it's asking us how many miles, right? Well, what is miles? That's distance. So we're having to find distance. Well, so here's what we have to do. Our equation is still velocity equals distance divided by time. But we need to manipulate it a little bit. So we need to get distance all by itself on this side. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to get time over here somehow. Well, distance is divided by time. It is distance divided by time. Well, what is the opposite? What is the opposite of division? Well, it's multiplication. So if I multiply this side, t times time on both sides, it cancels, doesn't it? But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So what do I have? I have distance equals time multiplied by velocity. Time multiplied by velocity. Well, now all we have to do, since we have this as our equation, we just need to substitute it in. Remember, our time is 3.5 hours and our velocity is 120. So, time 3.5 hours multiplied by 120 miles per hour. Okay, what do you see? Do you see that hours are here and hours are down here? Well, can't we cancel them? So I'm going to cancel hours by hours. So what am I left with? Miles. Miles are how we measure distance. So we know we're on the right track. So distance equals 3.5 times 120 is 420 miles. All right, so let's look at number 5. It says, how long would it take? How long? That's going to be time. How long? It says, how long will it take for a car to travel a distance of 200 kilometers. So our distance equals 200 kilometers. If the car is traveling at a velocity, it's telling us it is the velocity of 55 kilometers per hour. Okay, I've got time, I have distance, and now I've got my velocity. So my equation is still velocity equals distance divided by time, but now I need to look at time. I need to solve for this. So I need to multiply both sides by time. And it cancels here and cancels here. So now I've got time multiplied by velocity equals distance. We're not quite there, we need time by itself. So we want to keep time right here, but we want to move velocity to the other side. So I'm going to divide both sides by velocity. This cancels. So now my equation is time equals distance divided by velocity. So now all we have to do is plug in our numbers. Remember, we have 200 kilometers divided by 55 kilometers per hour. Well, all you have to do now is, divide that, and that is 3.64. Kilometers and kilometers cancel, so it's going to be hours.